Hey everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. And we have the season finale of The Expanse this week. I've really been looking forward to this, so it's too bad the season's ending already, but let's go ahead and get into this. Now, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't already seen the episode yet, you should do that first and then come back. We start on board the Rocinante, which is burning towards the Chetzamoka to rescue Naomi. Then Bull interrupts and shows them some sensor readings. The Rossi has identified a couple of ships that are between them and the Chetzamoka. Two Martian warships, a destroyer, and a heavy frigate, plus three other ships that are Belter ships they can identify. The ships are running with their transponders off and are obviously lying in wait to attack the Rossi before it can reach Naomi. The frigate alone has twice the firepower of the Rossi, and they're already low on fuel and ammo after chasing after the Zemea. Against all five of these ships, they have no chance of winning, and Monica and Bull want to turn around and make a run for it. The other three ships that are part of the Martian group are actually Drummer's small pirate fleet. Drummer and Corral are on one ship, while Oksana and Joseph are on another. On the Rossi, Bull argues that they have to run while they can, but Holden argues that Marco won't allow them to get away again, and those ships will just pursue them until their fuel runs out. He argues that all they can do is charge right at Marco's ships and hope they can survive. Bull doesn't like the idea, but he reluctantly agrees. Then Holden sends a message to Alex on the Firehawk and urging Alex to go get Naomi. On the Chetzamoka, Naomi manages to trigger one of the maneuvering thrusters, putting the ship into a spin, which will make it more difficult for the Firehawk to dock with her. Obviously, she's doing this because she wants the Firehawk to stay away and not trigger the proximity sensors, which will blow the ship up. On the Firehawk, they see the Chetzamoka go into a spiral, and Bobby argues that it's too dangerous to dock with it now, but Alex is determined to try anyway. Also, since the ship is no longer heading away from them, they'll have to do a hard heavy G stop to avoid passing the ship, and Bobby argues that it's also too dangerous as they've already done several high G maneuvers recently. On Drummer's ship, Corral is at the fire control station preparing to fire on the Rossi when Drummer takes her sidearm from her and warns her not to move. Then Drummer launches a missile at Oksana's ship, damaging one of its engines. Then Drummer receives orders to fire on the Rossi as it's changed course and is heading straight at them, but Drummer claims that they have a fire control malfunction and can't attack. Then one of her crew, Berthold, knocks the gun from her hand, and Corral picks it up, but before she can kill Drummer, another of Drummer's crew, Michio, clubs Corral over the head with an oxygen tank and kills her. Then Drummer launches missiles at the Martian destroyer and takes it out. Seeing that the Belter ships are firing at the Martian ships, Holden targets the heavy frigate and launches missiles at it. Then another of Drummer's ships fires more missiles at the frigate, destroying it, and then Drummer contacts Holden and tells him it's her and not to attack. On the Chetzamoka, Naomi receives a message from Alex telling her that he's going to get her off the ship no matter what, which is exactly what she doesn't want to hear. Seeing no other option, Naomi puts her helmet on and jumps out of the ship into space. She starts using Belter hand signals to warn Alex that the ship is going to blow up and hopes that he sees her. Of course, she has no air tank, only the air that's inside her suit, which is running out quickly. Bobby spots her, but she's so close to the ship that they can't bring the Firehawk to her without risking a collision. So Bobby goes out in a spacesuit with a thruster pack on and gets to Naomi and gives her oxygen before she suffocates. Then they head back to the Firehawk. But Alex doesn't answer Bobby's calls, and we find out that it's because Alex has had a stroke due to the high G maneuvers, and he's dead. On the Pella, Marco realizes that Drummer has betrayed him and tells Serge, the member of Drummer's crew who came on board earlier in the season, to meet with him. On the Rossi, Monica asks Bobby to help her decipher the tactical logs from the fight with the Zemea, and Holden tells Bull to fire a missile at the Chetzamoka, destroying it. Earlier in the season, Holden had seen a message that Naomi left for him before she left to find Philip. Holden had never played the message, so Naomi plays it for him. It's her talking about how much the time she has spent on the Rossi and the crew, especially Holden, have meant to her, and telling Holden that it's okay to let her go and move on if she didn't make it back. Drummer receives a video message. It's footage of her crewman Serge being spaced by Marco. Her whole crew is shaken up by this, and Oksana and Bertold decide to take a ship and leave, while Joseph and Michio choose to stay. Drummer argues that they need to stick together, and that Oksana and Bertold won't be able to hide from Marco forever, but Oksana isn't having it. They leave while the Rossi heads to the moon, since Amos and Avasarala are already there. On the moon, Eric suggests going out to the ring worlds and asks Amos to join him, but Amos declines and says his goodbyes. Amos is reunited with Naomi and Holden. They share a moment to mourn Alex. Amos, being Amos, is philosophical about the whole thing, accepting it for what it is and moving on. Then he asks Holden if he was serious when Holden threatened to kill him back in the first season when it looked like some Martians were going to board them. Holden says that he was serious back then, but that was a long time ago and they're friends now. Amos points out that they've put that behind them and that they each have each other's backs now, and Holden agrees. Amos smiles and says, "Thanks for being so understanding," and then he brings Clarissa on board, much to Holden's dismay. Then the crew attends a formal dinner with Avasarala and some Earth brass, and members of her cabinet. Monica approaches Holden and tells him that one of the missiles that was fired by the Zamea actually flew away rather than being fired at them, and argues that the protomolecule may have been in the torpedo and is now in someone else's hands. Then Avasarala asks Holden to come with her right away. Monica tries to follow, but some guards stop her. Christian takes Bobby and Holden to a war room where we find out that Marco has launched an attack on the 3 warships that are guarding the ring, 1 Martian and 2 Earth ships. As Marco's ships approach, a storm of micrometeorites that are coated in stealth material hit the 3 battleships, causing them all to take heavy damage. Then Marco's forces open fire on them. While the point defense guns on the Martian battleship are taking out the incoming missiles from Marco's navy, more missiles are fired at them from Medina Station, inside the ring gate, which is crewed by Belters, destroying the Martian battleship. So now we know that Medina Station is with Marco. Then a Martian battle group approaches, but it's led by the Bar Keith, the ship that Alex and Bobby had been following, and the other ships with it are ships that the Martian Navy has reported destroyed in engagements with Marco's forces. They open fire on the 2 Earth battleships, and those are destroyed as well. Then the Martian ships and Marco's navy head through the ring. Admiral Salvatore, who is commanding one of the ships in the Martian battle group, congratulates Marco on the victory, and then the 2 groups head their separate ways, with Marco and his navy going through one ring, while the Martian ships head through another ring to a system called Laconia. Then Salvatore gets a message from Cortestevar, the technician who had been working on the protomolecule in previous seasons, and who was taken prisoner by Marco's men. He's already on Laconia working with the protomolecule, and then we see an object in the sky over the planet, which appears to be some kind of a ship, which is being made using the protomolecule technology, and the episode and the season in there. So I thought I'd talk a little about this episode first, and then a bit about the whole season. The last couple of episodes were a little slow, and I wondered how they would conclude things in this final episode. It turns out that the finale was actually really good. The fight between the Rossi and Marco's ships seemed like a hopeless fight, and then it almost ended too easily thanks to Drummer turning on Marco's people. I did like that we see her decision having some consequences as Serge is executed by Marco, and some of her crew decide to leave her. One thing that I found disappointing was the death of Alex. I figured something like this was coming, but I was hoping he would at least get to go out in a blaze of glory or something. Instead, he just has a stroke off screen. We don't even see it happen, and the other characters barely address it. 10 minutes later, they're at a party laughing and acting like it never happened, which kind of bugged me because I thought Alex deserved a better send-off. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, though. Months before the season was released, it was announced that Cass Anvar would not be coming back for season 6 after allegations of sexual misconduct had been made by several female fans and co-workers. The season had already been shot when the decision was made to fire him, and the lockdowns probably made that even more difficult than usual. Among the crew of the Rocinante, he was the normal one. He had some flaws, certainly. He was very neglectful of his family, and his relationship with them suffered as a result, but compared to the others, he was a fairly normal and stable person. I would have preferred if the series spent a little more time on just who exactly is behind all this. It's clear that someone on Mars arranged for Marco to receive the Martian ships in return for the proto-molecule, but I don't think Admiral Salvatore is the one behind everything. He mentions an Admiral Duarte at the end of the episode, so is that the person behind all this, or is it someone higher up? Another question is why, of course. Ultimately, I think the reason for Martians working with Marco is that both groups realize the ring worlds are going to make their way of life irrelevant, and they aren't willing to accept that. The culture of the Belt and of Mars were built largely around resource scarcity. The Belt mainly supplies raw material from asteroids to Earth, which has been stripped of most of its natural resources, such as iron and other metals. The ring worlds make much of that work unnecessary, as there are hundreds of worlds which can now be exploited for their resources. For most Belters, immigrating to these new worlds isn't an option, because generations of living and working in low or zero gravity makes it impossible for most of them to now live on a planet. A small percentage may be able to adapt, but those people, after a few years, won't really be Belters anymore. Control of the ring, and by association, access to the ring worlds, is the Belt's only option in order to remain relevant and have any bargaining power to change their position. That brings us to the Martians. Why have some Martians become willing to sell out their own military in order to get the proto-molecule and access to one of the worlds beyond the ring gates? Like the Belters, Martian culture was built around resource scarcity. The Martians were a highly militarized culture dedicated to turning their world into a new Earth. But the ring worlds have rendered those dreams irrelevant. Humanity now has hundreds of habitable worlds it can colonize. So why put so much time and effort into terraforming Mars? The Martian economy is devastated by the masses of immigrants leaving Mars and heading to the ring. This led to the Martian military forces being cut extensively. Clearly, some in the Martian military saw the collapse of their society coming and decided to get out ahead of it, stake a claim to one of the ring worlds where they could institute an entirely martial culture, free from the restrictions that the political bureaucracy on Mars has placed on them. They wouldn't be able to just take a bunch of Martian ships and just slip away. So they worked with Marco, letting him devastate Earth and throw the entire solar system into chaos, which allowed them to start moving people and ships to Laconia, the world they've chosen for themselves, without people noticing. They've also placed an extensive minefield around the ring gate to Laconia so that no one can come through their gate to attack them. But what do they want the proto-molecule for? In the closing scene of episode 10, we see that Cortestavar is already on Laconia working with the proto-molecule sample. We also see what appears to be a ship being built in the sky over Laconia using proto-molecule technology. The proto-molecule is an incredibly powerful form of alien tech. We've already seen in this series that it can create effects that defy conventional physics. It looks like the Martians, or I guess I should call them the Laconians now, are going to use it to create a fleet of ships using the proto-molecule. I'm guessing the Laconians aren't building these ships because they plan to just hang out on Laconia and take it easy. The proto-molecule can create pretty complex structures very quickly, so I'm guessing they'll be able to build, or perhaps grow would be the better word, a fleet of ships quicker than anyone realizes, and when they're ready, they'll come through the ring gate to conquer the rest of the solar system. My guess is that somewhere down the line, Marco and his people are going to regret making this deal. In fact, all of humanity may wind up regretting it. In this episode, Naomi expresses regret for all the deaths that her choices have caused, particularly Alex. But the Laconians have the proto-molecule because she didn't destroy the last sample of it when she and the others agreed to. Instead, she gave it to Fred Johnson, and then Marco's people stole it from him and gave it to the Martians. So Alex's death probably isn't going to be the last death she regrets causing. Regarding this season overall, it was a tale of two seasons to me. The first half with the attack on Earth and the theft of the proto-molecule was fantastic, totally riveting. But then the season got a bit bogged down by Naomi's plot line, which went on at least an episode too long, in my opinion. But it rallied at the end to at least give a coherent ending, even if it's a bit unsatisfying. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you found this video informative, please hit the like button before you leave. Also, please sub to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.